When you look back at Steven Universe, it's funny how the most unlikely character ended up carrying some of the show's deepest themes. Lars started as, well, pretty much a jerk, and he was insecure, defensive, downright mean to the people who cared about him. At first, he felt like background noise, kind of this comic relief at best, frustrating at worst type character. But by the time the Wanted arc hit, Lars' story kind of took a sharp turn, and suddenly he kind of became one of the most fascinating characters in the series for a bit of time. And before we get started, I want to let you guys know you're tuned in to Light Table Disco. I'm your host, Nujazz, and we're going to be talking about all things animation on this channel. If you can dig it, I'd love to vibe with you. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below, like this video, share it, do whatever you need to do, and let's keep this train rolling. Lars's whole death and resurrection thing didn't just kind of give him pink skin and immortality. It gave him a purpose in a way. For once, he wasn't just really running away from responsibility or hiding behind his sarcasm. He kind of stood up, led his own crew, go off colors, and kind of became somebody worth following. And that's the beauty of his arc. Lars didn't just transform into this kind of perfect hero overnight. He grew into it, fumbled, learning supposedly, and kind of earning the respect of those around him. And to me, I think that's a more relatable story than Steven's whole cosmic destiny ever was. And I'll be honest, I've always had mixed feelings about Lars's art. On one hand, I kind of like the idea of him growing beyond this insecure donut boy persona and stepping into something bigger. But I think the whole Lars of the Stars segment that we kept getting sprinkled throughout the series, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way in the beginning. The entire thing played out just like a giant anime parody, and while it was fun visually, it kind of made Lars feel way too cool too fast. Like, he kind of goes from struggling with his emotions and self-esteem and all that stuff in one season, and then like the next time we see him, he's like strutting around like a cocky space captain. And to me, I think that kind of confidence and cockiness only works if it's earned. It's got to come from experience, scars, hard-won battles or hard-fought battles. And think characters like Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop. They kind of radiate that energy because they've lived it. Lars, by contrast, hasn't really put in that mileage yet, so when he started acting all high and mighty, it didn't really land for me. Kind of felt like the show skipped a few steps in his growth, and that always kind of irked me. Especially because when it happened, I kind of had this theory that Steven did to Lars what Rose may have done to a normal lion, creating Lion. It's been some time since I've really seen Steven Universe, but I don't think we ever got an explanation. Did we ever get an explanation of where Lion came from? If we did, please remind me in the comments, because I'm still too lazy to look things up. But I kind of like the idea of maybe Lion was an ordinary lion and something happened and Rose maybe accidentally killed it or it died or whatever, and then she was able to bring it back to life, and now it serves almost as a familiar to Rose or Pink or Rose's gem, and that's why Lion was so attached to Steven. That was always the vibe I got from Lion. That was always my headcanon. And I particularly remember there being a whole episode where Connie and Steven are like playing and the topic is around familiars, and I always remember thinking that it was going to come back to Lion being Rose's familiar. So with that in mind, the idea of Lars dying, while tragic when it happened, was always kind of cool to me because I thought Steven basically made another human Lars his familiar, which is really kind of sick in a way. So I thought there was like parallels going on there, but maybe that was the initial idea or what we were supposed to take away from it, and maybe the universe just didn't want to outright say that, because in a way that kind of makes it feel as though Lars is honor bound or tied to Steven in a way, like to serve him or something. But so maybe that just wasn't the vibe they were going for. But either way, that was always my headcanon, and I feel like Lars would be cooler if they had just pulled the trigger on that. But generally speaking, when it comes to the story, we've already seen Steven wrestle with the weight of his mother's legacy. But Lars's journey is something kind of completely different. He isn't really cleaning up after someone else's mistakes. He's kind of just going into his own plot. He's charting his own course into new territory, and that story is going to be less about destiny and more about choice. I would hope so. Like, I don't want Lars to be some cosmic superhero child of destiny or something like that, because his story literally makes no sense. But generally speaking, what kind of excites me about this whole project is that Lars technically represents a hero that we don't usually get in children's animation. He started off as a jerk. He's messy, deeply flawed, carrying all this insecurity. Somehow his life has changed around drastically. He keeps taking these steps forward, and that's pretty powerful, especially if he turns into like a real multifaceted, multi-dimensional character in this series. And that could be pretty powerful for fans who might see themselves in him more than in Steven. You know, not everyone grows up destined to save the world. Some of us kind of stumble along the way, get knocked down, and we kind of have to figure it out as we go. Lars shows us that those people can still matter, definitely, and they can still lead rebellions and inspire loyalty and even become legends. So the new spinoff could make Lars shine in ways that the original show never really had time to. Lars of the Stars has the chance to slow things down, and we can actually focus on him, and he can actually earn that newfound confidence instead of kind of just rocket shipping him, no pun intended, straight into this kind of cocky space pirate mode who's all confident and, from what we've seen, competent. But the series could maybe take a step back and show the kind of maybe the middle area of that kind of messy, awkward trial and error stage of a guy trying to figure out leadership. But watching Lars kind of stumble, doubt himself, and kind of grow into that cool captain role will probably make the payoff way more satisfying. Kind of in a way that mirrors Simon's arc in Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. If you haven't watched that, please do. It's literally peak fiction, and I will never stop shilling it, not even for a second. But all they really have to do in the spinoff is just kind of lean into that a little bit, kind of balance. If they're going to still keep that parody element, just kind of balance that with genuine character building, which I'm sure they will. Like, if this is going to be a series, I'm sure they're not just going to ride the anime parody joke into the ground. But it could transform what kind of once just felt like that over-the-top gag into a believable, like, well-earned evolution of a character. And in other words, I feel like this is where Lars can finally grow into that Spike Spiegel energy that the original kind of showed or teased that he kind of had, but never really fully justified. So yeah, I'll say it. You know, Lars of the Stars might just be the evolution of Steven Universe we didn't know we needed. Steven's story is complete. And, you know, beautifully so. I think they did a pretty good job. I really like Steven Universe Future. I'll probably one day do like a retrospective on Steven Universe, maybe go through episode by episode and just kind of rewatch the series as a whole. But I really like the conclusions that Steven Universe Future, kind of like how it wrapped things up and the topics it dealt with. I think they were very interesting for a growing audience, which kind of makes this series a little more interesting to me as well, because like, who is this for? Like, it's on Amazon Prime, so it's probably not aimed at actual kids. So this is probably for the fans. So focusing on Lars and like showing him being this messy character it's probably more for that young adult Steven Universe age audience anyway, that were kids when this was airing. So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what the target audience is here and what the tone of this show might be. But Lars, you know, he's out there, pink hair, glowing up against the stars, and proving every day that, you know, even the most unlikely people can become, in a way, heroes of their own saga. So I feel as though as long as the crew puts some love into the show, which again, I trust that they will, I'm not doubting their abilities, but all they have to do is just not make it a gag anime parody. And I think we'll have something interesting on our hands here, while also expanding on the show's lore and the world building. And honestly, I just think that's a pretty cool story worth telling. So what do you think about Lars of the Stars? Do you think it's going to be a smash hit? Do you think it's going to be a flop? Do you think this is something we need? Like, if you had to choose a story to focus on in the Steven Universe world, would you have picked Lars of the Stars? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. If you like this kind of content, keep checking out Light Table Disco. We are here. We're going to be talking about all things animation. And I'm your host, Ninja Nujazz. And I'll see you in the next one. Artificial,